Hello everyone, and welcome to our instructional video for our Organization Builder application. This is Brian from ExcelForce Solutions. I appreciate you joining us. What I'd like to take you through today is kind of three broad categories regarding the system. The first is we'll go through the home page and some of the settings, and then we're going to talk about general system function. And then at the end I'll go through our foundation scoring process in a little more detail. Organization Builder was developed to really help companies handle the performance management part of their business. In general, what it's about is you can create a organization in here which results in an organization chart. And then for each employee on that organization chart, we can add job descriptions and performance reviews and training plans and things like that. So that's the general overview. I think from a strategic standpoint, when you tie in our foundation score system, I think it's a great way to really improve organizational health and make sure we're taking care of our employees. So that's the big picture. To kind of dive right in here, this home page, as you can see, a few things to talk about here. The first thing I wanted to point out is that this is an Excel-based application, and because of that, macros need to be enabled on your computer. You also have to have Excel on your computer in order to run this. Down here on the home page, we have instructions on how to enable macros on your computer if that's not the case today. You can also see a few other things on this page. This is where you'll always log in. This page will be the page that comes up every time you open the file. We'll talk about an access key in a second. There's some information and help that you can get to here. There's settings, which we'll go through, and then a couple of utilities down here. Should point out too, this video, if you ever want to watch it again, will always be a link from this home page right there. You can also from the home page visit our website or contact us through there as well. The first thing you're going to do when you open up your new organization builder is you need to enter a key, an access key. So before you even log in, you're going to click on this key button, and it's going to bring up a box, and if you have entered a key before, it will show what key you have there. What I'm going to put in there right now, which is probably what you'll have the first time you go through this as well, is our 7-day free trial key. It's K512, and when I click save, it actually saves that in the system, and that's going to control the access you have. So because that's a 7-day key, in 7 days that's going to deactivate itself. But once I've entered that key, then I can log in, and hopefully the instructions you received from our website as well. The first time you log into the system, you're going to use the password admin, A-D-M-I-N. That's going to give you access to the whole system, and it's also going to allow you to change other passwords and things like that. So you click log in, and up here it'll tell you that you are now logged in. So those are two kind of important processes that need to be done in that order when we're starting out. And just a few other things here. If you click on the info button, just a bunch of resources are brought up here. This you can see these control buttons here, which we'll go over in the next section. But there's a little key that explains each of those. There's some information on some icons you'll see throughout the system, a few notes on Excel in general. And if you ever get stuck on where to start with the system and things like that, if you just scroll through this info, it'll show you kind of the main steps in the process. This talks about our foundation score philosophy a little bit. And then it even gives you the 20 components of our foundation score, which again we'll go over in the third component of this training. So I'm going to go back to the home page, which you can always get to by clicking home here. It just takes us back to where we were. And I'm going to quickly go through settings here. There's four setting categories to talk about. The first is just general and security settings. And the two things you're going to do here is you're going to enter your organization name up here, because that'll show on all the reports and the forms, so that's very important. And you can see this is the one password we have logged in or loaded in here so far. You can add up to 4 additional, and you probably want to change this one, but you can have 5 admin passwords, and the first 2 give you access to all employees in the system and all settings, and then the second 3 give you access to all employees but not the settings. So if you wanted to give someone admin access and not give them the settings, that's how you would do that. Just anything you type in here, if I type Bob right here, then Bob would be an admin password that would give access. You can also over here assign specific managers access to just their people. So let's say we had an employee called by the name of Bill Smith. I would put his name there, and then if we wanted to give Bill a password, whatever, Bill S, then when he logged in with Bill S, he would only have access to any employees that report to him. So that's a way, if you want to kind of segregate the security by department, that's how you would do that. All right. Anytime I try to leave a page without saving, like if I clicked home here, the system's going to ask me if I want to save changes or discard changes. I'll discard them at this point. If I go back to settings and look at performance review settings, the performance review is one of the important forms that's in the system that we'll talk about in a little bit. And this form is very customizable, so this is where you do that. You can have up to 5 performance levels, and we got something loaded in here for you already, but you can change this. These are the labels that would show on the different 5. The performance review has comments that can be given to an employee, but it also has a score from 1 to 5, and this defines what those different 1 to 5s are. And then there's a description with each of those that shows on the performance review as well. So that's what that's about. You can also have up to 5 review types, and then within each review type there are 5 categories that you'll see on that one-page review form. So you might have different things. For example, with a manager review, like we might have something like business objectives under a manager review that maybe we wouldn't have under a non-manager. So this is just totally flexible. You can set this up. Maybe a salesperson has different categories that we want to give them a performance review on, and this is totally up to you. And you can see what we have loaded in there so far. So that's that section. If I go back to the home page again, go back to settings, other form settings, a couple things in here. There's 3 levels of discipline reports in the system, and this is where you would define those. What I've got in there so far is something called an action plan, a coaching form, and a performance improvement plan. But you can call these anything you want. And then there's also an area here, and you don't have to have anything in here, but this language will actually print on the bottom of each of these forms. Obviously, when we're getting into discipline forms, especially level 3, which is going to be more serious, these become potentially legal documents. So there might be some legal language you want on the bottom of those, and that's where you would set those up. And you can see what we have loaded in here. You can use that, or you can blank that out, whatever you want to do. Within the system, there's something called feedback notes that we can attach to an employee as much as we want, and there's 5 possible types of feedback, and you can determine this and define this for yourself. Maybe you want to have internal and external, or these are customer comments and these are employee comments or something like that. Feedback would just be, hey, Bob did a good job on that project. Might be an example of an internal comment. What I have in there right now, and you can change this, is just positive and negative, and that's one way to go as well. And then there's 7 non-position words. We're going to, in a little while, we'll go into an organization chart where we enter employee names and positions. And there may be occasions with the org chart where you instead of putting a person in a position, you want to just have a region or a department or a category. And I'll talk about that then a little bit too, but whenever these words are entered into a position, it is not counted as a person. And that kind of becomes important because when there's a person in the system, then we can track, does the person have performance reviews or scorecards or that type of thing. Whereas if it's a department or something like that, kind of just a subcategory, then we don't want to do those forms, obviously. So that's what that's about. That may be something you never have to deal with, but I wanted to show it to you, obviously. Back to the home page and settings. The final one is our foundation score settings, and I'll go over those when I go over the third section a little bit later. So just a final note on tools. These are things you're probably not going to want to run too often. There's two utilities in the system. One actually clears all the forms out, like if you have performance reviews in there and things like that, it'll wipe them all out, and that's meant for the kind of turning over to a new year. I guess what we recommend is you use this system, you load the performance forms for a whole year, and then actually clear them out, kind of archive that file and start a new file. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later too. Then the second utility here is this resets the whole system. This clear the forms, all it does is take the forms out of the file. Resetting the entire system takes the employees out and everything. So that would be if you're taking a system that has data in it and you want to make a copy and use it for another department, for example, or another company, you would just clear it out and that would give you a blank system. So in each of those cases, obviously you have to be very careful, and just remember this is an Excel spreadsheet, so if you do something like that, reset the entire system, just make sure you save it under another name, and then you'll still have your old version as well. Alright, that ends the first part of our video, which just talks about settings and kind of getting logged in. The second set we'll talk about these buttons and the functions that are in the system. Be right back.